All right. Well, thanks, Tiffany. Well, welcome to the third session today for 2020-22 rules training. This session is for bench. We had previously today first aid and team tech. Yesterday we had mine rescue training for coal and metal. One announcement I want to make about the metal, non-metal mine rescue training. We're going to be doing a rescheduling for that for Monday, March 21st, 1 o'clock. We'll be sending out notifications and invitations. There were some questions that came up yesterday in that, and we want to get those settled, and we'll do that at 1 o'clock on Monday. Want to thank everybody that's been working on all these rules for the bench committee. The subcommittee, really appreciate all your hard work. The advisory committee members, chairs that have worked on this, advisory committee chairs were Kenny Murray and Sammy Linville. Want to thank Tiffany for getting all these web notifications done, the invitations, getting these recordings and everything to pertinent to the web. And Stephanie Mead for getting all these rules together for us, working with the committees and putting these up on our website here so you can see them as we go through them. As you can see by her message here, please send her the rosters that you have. If you're going to be a judge at any of the contests this year, the only way to prove that you had training is required is to get your name on a roster and get your roster into us, so you'll have a record of being on the training. Also want to thank Link Self and Mac Wright at the Academy for all their help. There's quite a bit of help. Tim Watkins and Brian Thompson for their help too. And with that, I think that's the only announcements we have right now. Please keep your computers and your phones muted through this. It really helps out to keep the noise down, and we've been successful for the last few sessions in this. And then if you want to say something, you can unmute, but please keep it muted. With that, I'd like to introduce the advisory committee chairs, Kenny Murray and Sammy Linville, to say a few words.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. This is Kenny. I don't want to leave anyone out who might not have been on one of the earlier calls. So thank you all for your continued dedication to our nation's mine rescue program. It's extremely important to the industry, both coal and metal. Today, we're fortunate to have the subject matter experts from the bench rules subcommittee on the line who drafted these rules. Mark Beecham, chairman from the coal side, he'll introduce them in a minute. But these guys have spent a lot of time and effort in putting these rules together and providing a training opportunity to prepare our team members for a real life event. So thanks for all the work you guys have done. And as you'll see in a minute, the Q&As from last year's rules have been left in place to support the actual rules document that we'll talk about today. The rules and the Q&As are both posted on MSHA's website as well as Holmes' website. As we move through the season, 2022 season, there shouldn't be any local interpretations of any of these rules. Any needed clarifications should be routed through the national committee that will present the rules today. The rules that are presented are intended to be used for all contests, local and national, in 2022. So with that, Mark, would you introduce the coal representatives from the bench rules committee? Are you there, Mark? He might be with Sammy.
Yeah, I don't see him up here on the participant list, Kenny.
Okay. Is Sammy on by any chance?
It's not.
Ted Beck and Lewis McCoy.
Okay. Well, I'll introduce the ones from the coal side. Jim Rednick, Kenny Erickson, John Helmick, and Tom Patterson. And we've got a lot of support from David Levernight and Dan Goen from MSHA, as long as the vendors that we have represented through BioMarine and Draeger, Ted Beck from BioMarine, and Willie Barker has been a big part of this committee from Draeger. Are you on, Gary? Gary Moore from the Metal Group?
I see Dave's on, Dave Liebernight. Maybe Dave, would you like to go over the rules?
Yeah, I guess I'll take the ball and run with it here. I spoke with Mark Beeson this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning their time, and he was to be on here too, but something could have came up in his mind. I'm not sure. I saw their name was on for some of the earlier sessions, but yeah, I can do what Mark was going to do. It's not a problem.
Appreciate that.
If Stephanie just wants to pull up the, you can do either one. It doesn't matter to me, BG4 or bio.
Hey, Dave, I'll give Mark a call. I talked to him earlier today too, to see if something happened.
Yeah, I know he was planning on being on here, but something could have came up.
Yeah, ma'am, sure.
Can you hear me on there, Stephanie?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my document to load.
Okay. Okay, looks like we're going to start with the biopack. Basically, these rules, as everyone knows, they pretty much mimic each other for both apparatuses. So it's not a big deal one way or the other which one we start with and go through. Basically, the same rules will apply to both apparatus. So we can go down to the first change. These are red line. They are red line rules, so they'll be easy to see.
Hey, Stephanie, can you hear me?
There he is.
Oh, I can hear you.
Good. I had some issues. We got logged off and couldn't get logged back on.
Okay.
I am ready now.
Okay, I think we're doing the biopack. You want to get started?
You ready to get started?
Yep, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. I'd like to start out. Well, I'd like to thank the guys on the coal side on my committee. I'd like to thank David Levernight for all his help, Jim R.U. Rednick, John Helmick, Denny Erickson, Ted Beck as an advisor for the bios, and Willie Baker as advisor for the BG4s. Without them guys, I couldn't have made this possible. All them guys help. They make it really easy to do my job. So I just want to tell them guys, I really appreciate your help on all this. Okay, so the first change is obviously there on page 1 where Stephanie's got it up. We just changed the rules to 22. And then let me switch over real quick, Stephanie, because I had mine set for BG4 and not BIOS, but it'll only take me 2 seconds here. Okay, and then if you look down there, you can see number 13 says the Biopack 240R written record. We eliminated that one there. So we can go to page 1, Stephanie. Yeah, number 4 there, and I'll just read that first part there. It says the bench participant will be provided with 2 BioPack 240R apparatuses, 1 disassembled and 1 assembled, a test kit, a stopwatch, leak tech fluid, and a toolkit. We removed blank written record and writing device, and that's because we removed the written record for that one there. The next change is on page 2, number 8. So I'll just read number 8 there. Teams will tests will be performed in sequence on the assembled BioPack 240R apparatus as outlined in the rules using the standard functional test procedures with the test kit as outlined in BioPack 240R Bench Manual 4D 7C 091-D UI revision number D. This revision can be found, and what we removed was the MSHA website, because MSHA couldn't put that on their website. And what we added was the Holmes Association website. And that's where you can find that manual. The next change, same page, number 9, says a maximum of 30 minutes will be allowed to complete the problem. The bench judge will inform the participant that he has 5 minutes remaining to work the problem. At the completion of the problem, the judge or judges and the participant will note the working time of the problem with the timekeeper. Work done after the clock is stopped will not be recognized. And what we did there is, being we got rid of the written record, we eliminated that 1 minute that allowed those people to fill out those tests. We also eliminated where it said that if they didn't get everything filled out in the 1 minute, then that start the 30-minute time clock, and then the time would be added to them filling out the written record. Then we also eliminated the 2-point discounts per line for the written record, and we eliminated the maximum of the 10 discounts for that. The next change is on page 4, and it's number 1, talking about the written examination for the bench participant. I'll just read that first part there. The written examination shall consist of 20 questions. 10 questions for the written examination will be taken verbatim from the biobank. That's what we eliminated. And we're just going to take them out of the bench manual that I mentioned earlier. The next change is on page 13. And that was the old written record and checks for the BioPack 240R. So that now has been eliminated. And then the next change is on page 14. And that was the judge's written record and checks. And that's all the changes that we had on the BioPack. So if you want to go to the BG4, Stephanie. I'm not seeing nothing on my side, Stephanie.
Yeah, I'm trying. I don't know.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't me.
I've been having problems today.
There we go. I see it. You want to go to the next page? Okay, there we go. If you go down to number 19, we remove the BG4 bench written record and checks to stay consistent with the BioPack, so the rules are the same. You can go to page 1, rule number 4. I'll read number 4 there for you. It says the BITS participant will be provided with 2 BG4 apparatuses, one assembled, one disassembled, an RZ tester, an RZ 7000 tester, or a test at 6100. A stopwatch, defogging solution, leak tech or leak fluid, and a test kit and a tool kit. And we remove the blank written record and writing device. Again, stay consistent with the BioPack. Next change is on page 2, number 8. So number 8, tests will be performed in sequence on the assembled BG4 apparatus using the standard functional test procedures with the tester as outlined in the Draeger instruction for use manual for the PSS BG4 AP/PCP Draeger's user manual revision number 1, November 2016. This revision can be found, and again, we removed the MSHA website because it couldn't be published on there, and we added the Holmes website. And in this, we changed this to, and then what we added to was, in addition to the guidance with the manual there, the alternate relief valve test may be performed, because that alternate relief valve test is not mentioned in that manual there. So we added it to that one there. The next change is on page 3. That is the second part of number 8. And again, to stay consistent with the 2 units, this is where we took the 1 minute for the contestant to fill out the written record. We also took out the third, adding it to the 30 minutes after starting the clock with that there. And then we took out the 2-point discounts for incomplete line and the total of 12 discounts. So we removed all that to stay consistent with the 2 units and because we removed the written record. The next change is on page 4, number 1. And it says there, the written record shall consist of 20 questions. 10 questions from the written examination we removed will be taken verbatim from the BG4 bank, and they will just be taken from the Draeger's user manual. The next change is on page 19. And that there is the bench contestants, or the judges' scorecard there for the bench written record. That has been removed. And page 20, that's the contestants version, and that has been removed. And that is all the changes that we made for the 2 apparatuses for 2022. Short and sweet.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Can the contestants still provide their own written record or bring their own paper and pencil?
Well, I'd really have to talk to the board about it. I don't see an issue with it, but it'll be done on the 30 minutes.
Right. I just know some of them, that's how they keep up with their process. So.
And I went to 3 contests last year. One of them was metal, non-metal. The other 2 were coal. And it seemed to me, we thought when we first did this, that would allow the contestants to kind of calm down and settle down a little bit. And I really think it did the opposite. It just wound them up tighter than what they were. And everybody out there struggled with that written record. And I think there was just a little bit too much emphasis on that, and maybe not so much of just benching the app.
Hey, Mark, this is Ted.
Yeah.
They can bring blank paper and pencil but if they bring anything that's got, checklist or anything that they've written prior hand, that should not be allowed. If they want to sit and write the written record out on their own time with a piece of paper that's blank, all right, that I wouldn't have a problem.
What do you think, David? Are you on the call?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. If you go to rule number 7, it's on page number 2. It specifically says that the bench participant will not be allowed to bring any materials, written information, or records to the bench station.
So I guess that answers your question. It's not allowed.
Mark,
Yeah, and I'll clarify that just a little bit. I'm talking like a blank piece of paper, not a pre-written record.
From what I heard in the bench meeting last week was that you could make your own written record during the bench contest, and you could use that record for appeal purposes. I thought that's what the committee had decided.
I thought they said you could not use it for appeal processes.
I thought they said they could.
They cannot use it for appeal, but we did say that you could bring a blank paper and write out your own written record if you chose to, but it would be under the clock.
Right, you couldn't write it out before the clock started.
It would be under when the clock started. You can sit down and write your written record out if you want, but it will not be able to be used for appeal.
And it won't be the printed.
If they bring anything in there, you're directly contradicting rule number 7. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, the only way that would be allowed is if the bench was set up with a pencil and a piece of paper. The bench participant cannot bring anything with them.
Hey, Kenny, this is Alan. That's what we always did 50 years ago when I was on the bench is we provided that pencil and paper if they wanted to use it, but they didn't bring anything of their own.
Yeah, we could probably live with that. And that's on the clock though. We're not going to allow any extra time.
You wouldn't be able to bring the printed list. You would have to write it out yourself during the time limit.
Yeah, I guess what I was saying is the contest provided that paper and pencil for them, but they couldn't bring anything of their own. That's how we used to do it.
That's correct, and that's what Rule 7 reads, that when you get there, you don't bring nothing in but yourself. So you can't bring no blank piece of paper. You can't bring your writing device with you.
Yeah, that's clear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyone else?
Different subject, Mark. This is Ted again. I think both the BG4 and the buyout packs have issues with scorecards and judges' check sheets.
Okay, well, you're definitely on that end part of it because I rarely see the scorecards or anything like that there. But can you be specific, Ted?
For our judge's check sheet, there's a section that has data that you would take from your written record and you would transfer it over to indicate that they did their written record. So that probably needs to be deleted. Like ready for use, date, serial number, signature, cylinder reading.
Yes, Ted, I'm in the process of making new judges' checklists to eliminate those written records. And basically, they're going to go back to the way the old judges' checklists were, except for the fact that they don't use the hand-tight connection and wrench-tight connection terms that we used before. So they will still have all of the connected or good connections on, and then on the opposite side where the written record is currently, they'll go back to just having the tests in the order that they're supposed to be done. So that
Awesome.
so the judges can check those off. Now, as far as the scorecard, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get those changed, but basically the scorecard just has the docs on for not filling out the written record correctly. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that eliminated from there or not, but basically the judges just aren't going to use that doc because it's not in existence anymore. So it shouldn't be a big deal. That's the only thing I know of that's changed on the scorecard.
That's correct, Dave, and that's I can live with that too.
Anyone else?
Okay, Mark, if no one has any other questions, I'd like to use this opportunity. I'm sure we still have plenty of time left to actually go over some other things other than just the changes as far as judges training, problem design training, whatever you want to call it. And then if anyone else has any questions, I mean, we can try to answer those also. But this is our only opportunity right here, you know, other than these guys being able to listen to the recording. So if nobody else has anything else, I'd like a few things I'd like to cover here.
Okay, Dave, I'll let you take over.
Okay, if anyone has any questions on any of the actual rules or the way they're docked or the way they're supposed to be docked for the rules, I'll try to answer any of those also. But the biggest thing, you know, obviously this is all new. It's going to be new to a lot of contestants that haven't gotten to go to any contest since any of this has changed. I mean, there was a few contests that happened last year that I believe used these combined rules, very few throughout the country. So the problem designers also are going to have to get used to doing this new way of setting up the problems. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of things that you may not think of if you were used to setting up, especially for the metal non-metal old team tech competition where you only used one apparatus. So just a few things to go over for that to hopefully make this. Biggest thing I want to try and get across is these contests, wherever they are throughout the country, the locals, you know, we got to do our best to make these things consistent with the way the national contest is going to be set up and run. So, you know, the simple little things that people don't think about that, you know, we want these things to be the same so that if contestants do get to go to the local contests, that they actually see things the exact same way that they're going to be set up at the nationals. Kenny touched on that when we started this, but you know, it's simple little things such as laying out the tables correctly. First of all, if you're not used to dealing with two apparatuses and you were used to doing one apparatus, you probably use 6-foot tables. You really can't, it's almost impossible to set this up correctly and give the contestant enough room to work unless you use 8-foot tables. So if you're going to be setting contests up, that's one thing to think about, that you have to have 8-foot tables available for them to do their work on, because a 6-foot table just doesn't give them enough room to lay things out correctly without everything basically being on top of each other. So if you can use 8-foot tables, that's great. You know, you have to have the table laid out correctly. You can go on, I'm not going to ask Stephanie to pull it up, but you can go on either Holmes's website or you can go on MSHA.gov, and there are bench designer resources available on there that show the table layout, the way the visual apparatus is supposed to be broken down, and the way everything's supposed to be situated on the table. You know, if you're on the side that the contestant's on, you want that test apparatus on the left, the tester that he decides to use with the toolkit right there in front of it. And then you want the back cover of the visual apparatus with all the parts inside of that. And then the carrying frame on the far other side of the table. It tells you exactly how they're supposed to be broken down for the visual apparatus. You know, the scrubber's intact, the drain valve's intact, the relief valve's intact, but that's all taken apart, put in the back cover. All that stuff's on there. So if you take the time to go into those problem designer resources, it'll tell you exactly how it's supposed to be broken down. everything will be consistent, and it'll be the way it's going to be at nationals. So these people actually get a fair chance to see the way things are going to be at the nationals. And one other thing I wanted to cover for sure, especially for the people that were used to the old team technician and the one apparatus, you were used to getting visual bugs and test bugs on the same apparatus. That's not supposed to happen anymore. That was one of the holdups of, you know, why we argued so much about going to the two apparatus, was the fear of people putting visual bugs on a test apparatus and vice versa. And that is not supposed to happen. You should only have bugs in the visual apparatus, you know, that are visual bugs. And in the test apparatus, they should be able to be found by using the test equipment to find those bugs. They should not be visual bugs. So any problem designers out there, please make sure you only put visual bugs on the visual apparatus and test bugs on the test apparatus. That's why you have two apparatus, and that's why it's supposed to be that way. So don't try to confuse anyone or trick anyone by doing that. It's just not the way it's supposed to be. And that brings up the other point. If you want the contest to go anywhere close to halfway smooth, please don't try to trick these people. Put real bugs in that are going to leak consistently. Try them out so you know they leak, because anyone who's ever put a bench contest on knows you can put bugs in there that you think are going to leak, and amazingly they don't leak sometimes. So please use things that are going to leak for sure. They're going to be consistent across the board, and you don't have tricks in there that are trying to trick people, because, you know, nothing makes a contest anymore just downright get hateful when people come into appeals and everything else. If you're dealing with those kind of issues and you had a bunch of tricky stuff in there that, you know, just it doesn't go well. There's enough stuff that can go wrong if you do a normal contest with normal bugs, and if you do that on top of it, you're just asking for a day or whatever it is of just a nightmare. So don't do it, and it'll go much better. It'll be better training for them. Nothing puts a worse taste in their mouth than to come to a contest and have the whole thing screwed up by either bugs that didn't work, bugs that weren't there, you know, getting something happening with the judging, and they get docked for stuff they shouldn't have got docked for. All those things, you know, it just makes everybody miserable, and it doesn't provide the training that we need to be providing for these guys. So just don't do it.
Hey, Dave,
Good morning. Go ahead.
quick question. Since we're going to be doing bugs on both units, is there going to be a max on bugs? So it used to be just 5 total.
No, there's no max. There's nothing in the rules that says there's a max on anything. That's totally up to the problem designer. But again, you know, you have to make it, you know, obviously for the national contest, we always try to make it a very challenging problem. And you have a lot of, there's no way around it. Your top benchmen are going to finish it, and they're going to do well. You know, you always hope to have at least 3 or 4 zeros at the top end of the field, so you can say, yes, this was a good problem, it was doable, and the good benchmen got it done, but they had to work to get it done. You're always going to have those other benchmen that are just starting out, you know, and they're not experienced yet, and they're going to struggle, and they're not going to finish, and they're going to be frustrated, but there's really no way around that. So, you know, there's not a limit in the rules as far as bugs, but you have to use common sense, obviously, and, you know, hope that you have things figured out. I like to run through the problems a few times, get a few different people to run them that I work with, and try to see what it's going to be. But there's really not, there's nothing I can tell you. There's no limit. The answer to your question is there's no limit. So it's up to the problem designers to, again, use common sense and try to make it to where it's a good problem that's going to make them work, going to make them think, and make them learn something, hopefully. You don't want to just give them, you know, something they can breeze through, but you don't want to make it impossible either. So it's a sometimes it's almost impossible to get that perfect problem, but that's what you have to shoot for. Another thing that, and I know Ted has brought this up, and I think they did it quite a bit last year with the new rules that were put into place at the contests that he went to, if you have a good meeting in the morning and lock up with the contestants after they get done taking their written exam and before you get ready to start taking them out onto the benches, have a good meeting with them. If there's anything that you think you need to go over it with them so they're clear on what you're expecting. And if they have any questions, try to answer any questions they have right then and there. That way they don't feel like they got cheated whenever they come out. If there's something you have to go over it. That's the time to do it. And if they have a question right then and there, don't feel like you're giving away something for the contest. You're not telling them what the bugs are, but if they have a question, answer it right then and there, and it's over, and they know what they're supposed to do and what you're expecting of them. You know, tell them to talk loudly because there's always a lot of noise. The judges have a hard time hearing. And I'll say the same to the contestants. If you're having a hard time hearing the judges, tell them to speak up. There's nothing wrong with them speaking louder to you if you can't hear them. So that goes both ways. Go over all that stuff with them in a meeting in the morning, and it'll help out. If you have anything that you think is going to be a problem with the written exam, go over that with them before they take their written exam. Obviously, you're not going to tell them any of the questions or the answers, but if you have drawings in there that you think someone's confused on and someone has questions, answer and get that all cleared up before you take it. We want these contestants to be able to win the bench contest or lose the bench contest out on the bench. We don't want it to come down to tricking them on a written exam or tricking them on something out on the bench that just shouldn't be there. You want to make it as good a contest as you can for them, and that's the easiest way to do it. And then it gets down to scorecards and judges' checklists, like Ted also brought up, but for a different reason. And I go over this every year and sound like a broken record. But if you're going to be a judge, make sure you fill out your scorecards and judges' checklists appropriately. You're going to have a judge's checklist in that packet when that contestant comes out to the bench. You're going to get judges' checklists. Each one of you will have one of them. You need to fill them out as the contestant is doing the problem. There's not nearly as much stuff on there as there used to be before the rule change that you have to go down through there and check off that the contestant did and said. They're a lot simpler than they used to be, but you need to do it correctly. If one guy's doing it and one guy's not doing it, don't think at the end you're just going to compare them and make a match, especially if you're going to dock a contestant for something that he didn't say or didn't do. They have to match. You can't have one judge's checklist that says the guy did it and the other judge's checklist says the guy didn't do it. Because they're going to see those checklists when they come in for team appeals. I don't blame them a bit for filing an appeal saying that this judge said I did it and this judge said I didn't do it. And if that's the way those are filled out, it's going to get granted in appeals if I'm doing appeals. Because if the judges don't even have it right on their checklists, how can they say whether he did it or didn't do it? So make them correct, follow through, write down. Basically, most of these guys are good enough that they go right down that list. All you have to do is check things off, make them match. And then basically you use those checklists to transfer everything over to the scorecards when you start filling out your scorecards. Make sure you fill out your scorecards correctly. Make sure everything is on there it's supposed to be. You put a good explanation of why the guy got docked so that when he comes into team appeals, he doesn't spend half of his allotted time trying to figure out what he got docked for. He can't even figure it out. I've had scorecards that, they come in for team appeals, they can't figure it out, and they ask me what they got docked for. And when I start looking at it, I can't figure it out either. So you want a good explanation. You want them to be able to read your writing if you're doing actual hard copy scorecards versus cards on the computer. I'm not sure. I think we're going to be using cards on a computer at the Nationals. These scorecards, the contestants see each and every one of them when they come in for appeals. And it's embarrassing whenever they look like two kids in kindergarten tried to fill them out and didn't know what they were doing. So get them right, get them the way they're supposed to be. If you have any questions on how to fill them out, ask somebody and get it right before it goes to the contestant for team appeals. Because it's just going to jam things up on farther down the road with scorecard examiners, final appeals, the whole process. So please, if you're going to be a judge, take the time to fill it out correctly. It's considerate to the contestant and letting them know what they did wrong, if they did anything wrong, giving them a good explanation and docking them the way they're supposed to be with no mistakes, nothing extra and nothing less than what they're supposed to get. It's as simple as that. So that's pretty much all I wanted to go over on along the lines of that. If any judges, problem designers, or contestants have any questions at all on the rules or anything, we'll be happy to try and answer them. We have, I'm sure we still have plenty of time left to answer anything anybody can have to answer. Unbelievable we don't have any questions. Usually we open it up to questions and we get bombarded. Either Ted Beck or Willie Barker, do you guys have anything that you'd like to add that I'm missing?
This is Ted. I don't. You did. That's perfect.
Mark, you have anything else?
Dave, do you want to go over cutting and running just one last time?
Yeah, sure. Stephanie, if you could go, I'm not sure which ones you even have pulled up there. I think those are BG4, but you want to go to, where's that? I can find it here for some reason. I'm overlooking it.
On the bio, it's on page 6. Continuing without correcting the predetermined problem. It's question number 4.
Yeah, it's on page 7 on the Draggers, if that's what you have pulled up. Page 7, number 4. Okay, this is one that I go over every year also, and hopefully I don't confuse people when I go over it. But a lot of the contestants and a lot of the judges, well, I don't think the contestants are confused about it, but a lot of the judges, they really have a rough time filling out scorecards on this. But basically, last year, the dock was changed from a 5-point dock to a 40-point dock to try and eliminate contestants from doing this at all. And the background behind that is, you know, people were getting hung up on some sort of a leak. We'll just use for an example, some sort of a leak on the test machine that they could not find. You know, they start isolating, they got the machine all tore apart, they go through everything they know to do, and they just can't find this leak. So there's 8 tests remaining after the leak test. So that's, if you don't do those 8 tests, that's 5-point docks for not conducting those 8 tests. So that's 40 points. So they would just, instead of timing out and running out of time and getting those 40 docks for not doing those tests, they would just say, I'm going to move on. I can't find this leak. And they would go through and do all the rest of their tests. Even though those tests, not all of them, but some of them were considered an improper test because they never fixed a leak. So they would get 2-point docks for the improper tests. But tests like the battery tests and things like that, they would lose those docks. They wouldn't get them because they did them. So, and that was when it was only a 5-point dock for doing that. So they were basically eliminating docks. They were cutting their losses. So the committee decided to make it a 40-point dock so that even if you do this, you're still going to get as many docks as if you would not have done any of those tests at the end. So hopefully this is going to deter people from doing it. But if someone still does it, I'll go over and try to explain as clear as possible how it works and how the judges should be filling out their scorecards. I'll use the same example I always do. A leak, we'll just say a hole in the breathing bag. Person cannot find. Okay, obviously they get the dock for 5 points for not identifying the leak and 5 points for not fixing the leak. Then they get the 40-point dock for continuing without correcting the problem. So there's 50 points right now. Then they go through and they're going to get, an improper test for the 1 minute leak test because they never got it to pass. They're going to get a 2-point dock for that for an improper test. And they're going to get improper tests for the release valve and all that other stuff. They're going to get, but they're still going to go on and they're going to finish. Now, if they get to the end and get through all their tests and they decide, well, I still have 2 minutes left on the clock, 3 or 4 minutes, whatever it is, I'm going to go back and try to find that leak. And just by miracle, when they go back, they automatically find that leak in the breathing bag. They show it to the judge. The judge gives them the new one. They put the breathing bag in. So now they've lost the 5-point dock for not finding the leak, and they lose the 5-point dock for not correcting it. If they start at that point, the 1 minute leak test, if they have enough time to do it, which very doubtful that they're going to have enough time to do it, but it could happen. If they start at that point with the 1 minute leak test, it passes the 1 minute leak test, and they continue on through all the rest of their tests in sequence and finish before the clock runs out, they then will get that 40-point dock removed for continuing without correcting the problem. But they have to be able to go back, find the problem, fix it, and continue all their tests in sequence from that point on to lose that 40-point dock. It's the only way they can do it. And they lose the, all the improper tests. They lose all that stuff. But they have to have the time to go back and do that. So hopefully that explains it.
I have one question on that cut and run. If they do that and they go back and they get through everything, but they don't do the last 2 tests, so they get like 2 5-point docks for not doing them. You remove at what point do we remove the 40-point dock and just dock them for not doing the test? Just whatever gives them a lower score.
They have to go back and start at the 1 minute test and make it through all the rest of the tests all the way to the end to lose that 40-point dock.
If they made it through everything but the last test,
they still get
take off the 40-point dock and just give them a 5-point dock for completely not doing the last test?
No, they keep that 40 points until they go through every test from there to the end. That's the way it's always been. So bottom line is, in my opinion, don't do it. You're just going to cost yourself more than you can make up. And I don't think too many people are going to do it. And that was a good decision by the committee to raise that from 5-point dock to 40-point dock. And I think that'll take care of it. Bottom line is they have to make it all the way through from the 1 minute test, if that's where they started, whatever the problem was, and to lose that 40-point dock. That was made that way from the beginning to try and deter them also from doing that when it was a 5-point dock, but it didn't do it because it wasn't a big enough dock. So the 3 points, I think, will do that. That'll make a lot less confusing scorecards for our judges, and we'll have a lot less problems, I think. Did that cover that well enough for you, Ted, you think?
Absolutely.
I think the moral of the story is just don't do it. We have another question there. I heard something, but I couldn't make it out. The only other thing that I can remember from last year that we went over that was confusing to judges also, I know we get a lot of people that get thrown on on apparatuses for judges, and, you know, they get thrown on biomarines and they're not quite as familiar with a bio, or they might get thrown on a dragger and they're not as familiar with that. But on the biomarine side, it was basically when the contestant forgets to take the keys out whenever they're going through their test apparatus, and it's in between the RMS trim gauge test and the low pressure leak test. And the way we have told the judges for the last, I don't know, 5 years or so to be consistent, if they do the low pressure leak test, they're supposed to, at the end of that low pressure leak test, they're supposed to remove the keys from the apparatus before they move on to the next test. For some reason, they get nervous and they leave those keys in there. When they move on to the RMS and trim test, they have to turn the cylinder on to do that test. And if they turn the cylinder on with those keys still in the apparatus, it can damage the apparatus if it pressurizes long enough. So what we instruct our judges to do is, once the contestant is done with his low pressure leak test and he's moving on to his RMS and trim test, go ahead and actually let him turn the oxygen bottle on. And as soon as he does that, you need to stop him. Tell them that you need to shut the bottle back off and get the keys out of the apparatus before they damage the apparatus. That's not going to be off the clock. The clock's still going to be running. You know, that's just tough luck if you had to be told to take the keys out to keep from damaging the apparatus. We use a lot of borrowed equipment. We use a lot of the manufacturer's equipment, and we don't want stuff to be damaged because somebody did something they shouldn't have done. So they're not going to get the clock stopped and get the benefit of that. They're going to be told, shut the bottle back off, depressurize it, take the keys out, and then you can continue on. And the proper way to dock that as a judge is you're going to give them a 2-point dock for failing to do a proper low pressure leak test, because the last part of the low pressure leak test that is spelled out in the rules tells you that you're supposed to vent the pressure, remove the rubber tubing, remove the test plug and the keys. Simple as that. So it's an improper test, 2-point dock. That's what we do. Makes it very simple. It makes it consistent across the board, and that's it.
Make sure we understand we do not stop the clock for that. It's on the clock.
Right. It is on the clock. You don't stop the clock. That's just too bad for them if they had to be stopped and be told that all goes on their working time. There's no stopping the clock for that. And of course,
and just to clarify, Dave, you're not going to blow the machine up for 30 seconds or 40 seconds of leaving the keys in. So as judges, it's important that we make sure he's committed to moving on to that next test. If he's just putting his hand on the on-off knob for the valve and he's thinking and he hasn't done anything to turn it on, you know, you got to let him actually turn the cylinder on. And you know, it's not going to magically destroy itself for 30, 40, 50 seconds of the machine being left on. So just make sure that you see that the contestant has committed to going to that next test by physically turning that cylinder on. And then you just tell them, you reach over there if you have to, turn the machine off, and do what Dave said. Thank you, Dave.
yes. And the other thing I would go back through, as always, every year, and I know I sound like a broken record on this also, but if you are judging and you have a contestant that has a problem with the machines, whatever it might be, and you're not 100% sure that it's something that they created, you know, if you stood there and you watched the guy tear the machine apart and put it back together, he found a leak, but when he was putting it back together, he didn't get the, I don't know, the breathing hose on correctly or whatever it might be, and you actually watched that and you know that's the problem, that's fine. You can let them continue. But if it's something that is questionable and you 100% don't know that they created or something that they caused, you need to turn the contestant around, stop the clock, get somebody, whether it be somebody from Drager or Biomarine or the chief judge or a supervising judge or whatever, whoever you need to, stop the clock, turn them around and figure out what's going on before you let them stand there for however long it takes till the clock runs out with something that either shouldn't have been there. It was a mistake when they turned the machine around by the judges between the contestants. Anything like that can happen. And if you let them stand there until their time runs out, and it was something like that, they're going to come into appeals, and it's going to be the same old story. I'm going to have to tell them there's nothing I can do, because there isn't anything I can do at that point. Way to fix that situation. We don't like to stop them unnecessarily and throw them out of their rhythm and all that stuff. But if you're not 100% sure that they caused the problem, you need to stop them, turn them around, and get it figured out. And don't let the clock run off. And if you did use time, that time goes back onto their time. You can give it back to them, whatever, to make it right. Like I said earlier, we're not out there to, this should be won by them or lost by them on the bench, and it shouldn't have anything to do with the judging or the turning around the apparatus in between the contestants, screwing something up, forgetting to put a bug in, or not getting something hooked up correctly before they come out. Everyone's in a hurry. We're all trying to get these contestants run through and do it as quick as possible, but sometimes things happen. So no harm in stopping the clock, getting it fixed, and then letting them go on from there. Because if you don't do that, and it's something that we are responsible for, there's no way to fix it, and their national contest or their local contest is over and done with. There's nothing you can do to fix it. Anybody have any other questions on anything? Rules, procedures, problem design, anything?
Can you hear me, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for bringing that up, because it's been a number of years since I've competed, but that's one of the things that is so frustrating for a contestant is you fixed all the bugs and you got that back together, and then you come to find out 3 hours later that you did everything right and it was something that they did wrong. But like you said, when that 30 minutes is up, it's up and it's over for the contestant.
Yes, you can't, when they come into appeals, of course, they're furious and they write up an appeal. And what do you do? When you're in that position, what do you tell them or what do? You just can't do anything. You can't let them go do it again. You can't let them, it's just impossible to fix. So you're way better off to stop them. And I know contestants don't like to be stopped. It throws them out of their groove or whatever you want to call it. But if it comes down to that, you need to stop them. You really do. Unless it's 100% that you're sure you watched them do something, you need to stop them, get it fixed, because otherwise there's no fixing it. So, and that brings up another point with the judges. And I'm sorry to go on and on and on like this, but I could sit here for hours and tell you things that I've seen over the years with judging. And judging is the most frustrating part of the whole contest for me, because it's not their fault. We have excellent judges from the state agencies. We have excellent judges from MSHA, wherever you use them from, but they do not get any training. This is their training for the year. This is it. What we do here today, this is it. And then they have the option to watch it sometime in their own time later after this. And I think I looked at the rules video that was posted on YouTube from 2021 for bench, and I think it had 46 views. So that tells you how many people are actually watching these things. So, but judging consistently between judges is also a problem. And I went over this before in the past, so some of you may have heard this 10 times, but you have a contestant out there that is looking for leaks, and as soon as he isolates and he finds out that he has a hole somewhere in his canister or his hoses or whatever it might be, and he looks up at the judge and says, "I have a hole in my hose," and the judge hands him a hose instantly, doesn't make him point out where the hole is. And then the next set of judges they tell that guy, hey, you got to show us the hole. So he's got to take his hoses, isolate the hoses and find where that hole is specifically, and then say, okay, right here is exactly where my hole is on my hoses. You just cost that guy an extra minute, minute and a half that the other set of judges didn't cost the other contestant when they just handed him something. And once a contestant finds out that they have judges like that, they're going to hammer you with that over and over and over again. And throughout the course of a 30-minute problem, they may gain 2 or 3 minutes by that. So the judges need to be consistent and make the contestants show you exactly where the leak is. And we have the old thing they always called fishing, where they start, oh, I got a hole in my breathing bag, I got a hole in this, I got a hole in that, before they're even testing it. And if the judges are handing them stuff, that contestant is way ahead of the game from anybody else out there that has judges that are doing it the way they're supposed to do it. You want them to find the leaks, show you the leak, where it's at, not just say, I got a hole in my breathing bag. They have to actually show you where the leak is. Those little things like that can mean 30 seconds here, 45 seconds there, and that adds up to a bunch whenever it's at the end of the contest and you have 3 or 4 zeros that are separated by, it could be just seconds. So all those little things with consistencies with judges, that's just, you can only do so much with the training that we get, but hopefully that's just something to think about. You can go over in your judges meetings. If you have good judges meetings in the morning of your contest, when you're putting the bugs in the apparatus, while the contestants are in lockup doing their written exams, and you actually put the bugs in the apparatus and you show the judges and you go over everything with the judges in their judges books, make sure you do a good judges meeting with them, go over everything, make sure everybody understands. Obviously, you can't spend an hour because you just don't have that much time. But if a judge has a question, again, you might have somebody that's not really familiar with the apparatus they got put on. If you can move people around, that works great sometimes, but if not, you have to give them the best answers you can give them so they at least have a fighting chance when they go out and start judging somebody. So that's it. I'm done. I won't go on anymore, even though I could go on forever. Unless somebody has any other questions, I'm done, and I'll turn it back to you, Mark.
Okay, thanks, David. Now, that's really good because as a contestant, them little things like that can really frustrate you. And like you said, with showing the exact location, when it comes down to the national level and it's 10 or 15 seconds is the difference between first and second or second and third, that's really important to have the consistency there. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, I guess I'm done. I'll turn it back over to Kenny or Mr. Kravitz.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Mark and Dave. Lots of words of wisdom there, and I think you gave a lot of people a lot to think about. I don't have much more except for asking people to turn in those rosters and look for the invites if you're metal on metal to the Monday training, retraining. Penny, do you have any last comments to make?
I don't, but thanks, guys. It was very helpful. And Dave, we appreciate your insight. You have as much experience, if not more, than anybody on this phone. So we appreciate you sharing that with us.
Definitely. Okay, again, thanks again to Stephanie and Tiffany, and we'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I will now stop the recording and end the meeting. Have a great day.
You too.